Your manifestation has already happened. Neville mapped out that in the instant when you assume a state with genuine feeling, the bridge of incidence forms completely in consciousness, instantaneously, inevitably. The time that you experience waiting is an illusion. While you repeat empty affirmations, reality has already reorganized itself. The people around you are executing roles and bridges that they don't even know exist. Every person that you encounter is yourself pushed out. Every door that opens or closes responds to your dominant state of consciousness. The teachings of Abraham call this the vortex. Dispenza calls it the collapse of the wave function. Vadim Zeland calls it the space of variations. They've all discovered the same thing. Everything completes itself instantaneously in consciousness before it appears in the physical. The bridge exists, complete, now. You are walking across it without realizing it. The world conspires to confirm what you have already assumed to be true. Stop looking for signs. You are the sign.
Every manifestation that you have ever experienced happened instantaneously in the exact moment when you established the intention. The problem is that you were looking in the wrong place. The manifestation industry has built $1 billion empire selling techniques that promise results in 24 hours, miraculous scripts, and revolutionary methods that accelerate the process. But there exists a fundamental truth that completely transforms this narrative. Manifestation never needed to be accelerated because it has always been instantaneous. The question has never been about speed, it has been about understanding. Neville Goddard revealed this mechanism decades before modern gurus transformed the law of attraction into mass entertainment. He coined a specific term that describes with surgical precision how reality reorganizes itself in response to states of consciousness, the bridge of incidence. This concept represents the series of events orchestrated by the universe that connects a person's current state to the manifested desire. But here's what most people don't understand. This bridge doesn't take time to be built. It forms instantaneously in the moment when you establish any intention through assumed feeling. Imagination, according to Neville, is not a faculty of fantasy. It is literally the workshop of God operating through man. When you imagine with feeling, you are utilizing the same creative power that formed the universe. Not metaphorically, but literally. Imagination is the channel through which infinite consciousness expresses itself in finite experience. This is why the bridge forms instantaneously. You are operating with the fundamental creative power of existence. Observe the crucial distinction that separates those who manifest consistently from those who struggle eternally with techniques. Manifestation happens on two planes simultaneously. On the invisible causal plane, everything occurs instantaneously. On the visible physical plane, there exists the sequential unfolding through linear time. Neville called this causal realm the fourth dimension, not a distant mystical place, but the realm of consciousness where past, present, and future coexist in the eternal now. In this dimension, your intention doesn't need to travel or develop itself. It simply is, complete and perfect, in the moment of its conception. When someone affirms, "I am rich," with genuine feeling, in that exact moment, the bridge of incidence is already completely formed in the realm of consciousness. The time that it takes to cross it in the physical world varies, but the structure already exists integrally. This understanding eliminates the anxiety that paralyzes so many practitioners. You are not waiting for the manifestation to happen. It has already happened. You are simply crossing the bridge that already exists. It's like boarding a train that already has a defined destination and constructed tracks. The train might make stops, it might vary its speed, but the destination is inevitable because the route is already established. The instantaneous formation of this bridge mobilizes the entire universe in ways that transcend logical comprehension. 1,000 people can play specific roles, each one following their own impulses that they believe to be personal choices, but which in truth serve to embody what was assumed in the realm of consciousness. A casual encounter in the elevator, an unexpected email, a sudden change of plans from someone on the other side of the world, all of these apparently disconnected elements form precise links in the chain of events that leads to the inevitable result. Neville taught that your assumption, although it may seem false initially, if persisted in with feeling, will solidify itself into concrete fact. But what is rarely emphasized, and what meticulous observation reveals, is that this solidification begins instantaneously. Not after 21 days of repetition, not after reaching a certain vibration. In the exact moment of assumption with feeling. The process of crystallization into physical reality initiates itself in the instant when consciousness embraces the new state as true. The inevitability arises because consciousness is the only reality, a fundamental principle that permeates all genuine mystical teachings. If consciousness is the substance from which all experience emerges, then a change in consciousness necessarily produces a corresponding change in experience, not as a possibility, but as a mathematical certainty. The universe has no choice but to reorganize itself to reflect the new state of consciousness that has been assumed. Consider the revolutionary implication. Every time you establish an intention, whether through an elaborate affirmation, a detailed visualization, or a simple thought charged with feeling, you are not initiating a process that may or may not work. You are activating a law that operates with the same reliability as gravity. The bridge forms instantaneously, making the result not just possible, but inevitable. The physical time necessary to cross this bridge depends on factors such as the magnitude of the change required and the amount of internal resistance, but the bridge itself exists completely formed from the first moment. This explains why so many people report that their manifestations arrived through completely unexpected paths. The universe builds the bridge in the most efficient way possible, not necessarily in the way that the logical mind imagines. This fundamental understanding reveals only the first layer of a phenomenon that all the great spiritual masters have recognized, each one through their own unique language and perspective. The same truth echoes through different voices, eras, and traditions, confirming that the mechanism of instantaneous manifestation transcends any individual system of beliefs or specific methodology. Neville Goddard called it the bridge of incidents. Abraham Hicks calls it universal orchestration. Florence Scovel-Shinn spoke about unexpected channels opening up. Joe Dispenza maps quantum synchronicities. Vadim Zeland describes external intention moving the lines of reality. Each teacher uses their own language, shaped by their era and audience, but all of them describe exactly the same phenomenon. The moment when you establish a genuine intention, the entire universe reorganizes itself to deliver the result through means that your conscious mind could never architect. This triangulation of wisdom is not a coincidence. When multiple independent sources converge to the same point, you are facing a universal law, not an isolated theory. Abraham Hicks explains that in the moment when you ask, vibrationally speaking, the answer is created instantaneously in the vortex, another term to describe the causal plane where the bridge of incidents forms. The physical delivery is just a matter of you aligning yourself with what already exists completely formed. Florence Scovel-Shinn, writing in the 1920s, already taught that God works through strange channels, and his ways are ways of abundance. She insisted that trying to force specific doors to open demonstrated a lack of understanding about how the infinite operates. The perfect channel already exists, but it is rarely the one that the limited mind imagines. When you stop insisting on the how, the universe reveals paths that were invisible to conditioned perception. Joe Dispenza brings neuroscience to validate what mystics have always known. He demonstrates that when you combine a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you literally signal new genes and create new neural patterns that magnetize corresponding experiences. The synchronicities that arise are not accidents. They are evidence of the quantum field responding to your new electromagnetic state. Modern science confirms manifestation happens first in the field of infinite potentiality before it collapses into specific physical experience. Vadim Zeland introduces the concept of the space of variations, an informational field where all possible scenarios exist simultaneously. When you define an intention, you are not creating something new, you are selecting a line of reality that already exists in the space of variations. External intention, the force that moves you through the lines, activates itself automatically when you release excessive importance and allow reality to flow. Again, the same principle. Establish the intention and allow greater forces to do the heavy lifting. The convergence of these teachings reveals something profound. The specific techniques that each teacher emphasizes are merely different entry doors to the same destination. Neville uses sensory imagination. Abraham focuses on emotional management. Florence works with affirmations and decrees. Dispenza combines meditation with elevated states. Zeland employs the technique of slides and the reduction of importance. But observe, all of them agree that the critical moment is when you establish the intention with emotional conviction. The rest is commentary. This understanding liberates you from the tyranny of techniques. How many hours do people waste debating whether visualization is better than affirmation, whether scripting surpasses the 369 method, whether you need to feel the emotion for 17 seconds or 68 seconds? All of this obsession with specific methodology diverts attention from the only fact that matters. You activate a universal process that operates independently of the technique used to activate it. What really matters is understanding that you are working with an intelligence that infinitely exceeds your capacity for conscious comprehension. This intelligence, call it the universe, God, infinite consciousness, quantum field, or the absolute, knows every variable, every possibility, and every potential connection. It can mobilize resources that you don't even know exist, through people that you have never met, in places that you have never visited. When you truly understand this, the anxiety about doing it right dissolves. There is no magic formula that you need to execute perfectly. There is only the recognition that your intention, once established with genuine feeling, activates an orchestration that transcends any human strategy. The masters converge on this point because all of them discovered, through their own journeys, this immutable truth about how reality responds to consciousness. But how exactly does this universal response operate behind the scenes of your daily experience? Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and observe the route that your desire takes to fulfill itself. This instruction from Neville Goddard contains the complete operational formula of how reality reorganizes itself in response to states of consciousness. The word assume carries surgical precision. Don't wait, don't work to deserve it, don't prepare yourself, assume. In the moment of assumption, you are not pretending or practicing positive thinking. You are occupying a specific state of consciousness that possesses its own vibrational signature, its own thought patterns, and its own action tendencies. When you assume I am rich, you are not repeating empty words. You are inhabiting the state of consciousness of wealth with all of its psychological implications. Each state of consciousness magnetizes its own confirmation through a law that operates with mathematical precision. Neville discovered that the external world is not a fixed and independent environment. It is yourself pushed out. Every person that you encounter, every circumstance that arises, every door that opens or closes, everything represents externalized aspects of the state of consciousness that you occupy internally. The beggar on the corner and the millionaire in the office are both yourself pushed out, reflecting different aspects of your dominant internal state. This is not abstract philosophy, it is operational mechanics. When you assume a new state, you literally change the frequency on which you operate. People who before ignored your existence suddenly feel inexplicable impulses to get in touch. Opportunities that were invisible become obvious. Resources that seemed inaccessible appear through unexpected channels. The entire world conspires because the entire world is a projection of your state of consciousness. The causal chain initiated in the moment of assumption operates through what Neville called divine compulsion. The people around you begin to play specific roles without consciousness that they are following a script. They believe they are following their own desires and impulses, making decisions based on their own motivations. But in deep reality, they are responding to the change in your field of consciousness, moved by forces that transcend the superficial understanding of free will. An entrepreneur on the other side of the world suddenly decides to expand to your city. An old colleague remembers you for a specific opportunity. A stranger in the coffee shop mentions exactly the information that you needed. These are not accidents or coincidences. They are precise links in the bridge of incidents, each one arising at the perfect moment to move you from the current state to the desired state. Trying to manipulate or force these specific means reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about how the law operates. When you try to control the how, you are essentially saying that your limited mind knows a better path than the infinite intelligence that can see all variables simultaneously. It's like trying to drive a car while wearing a blindfold, insisting that you know better than the GPS that has complete vision of the territory. Neville used the metaphor of the invisible ladder to illustrate this process. You don't see all the rungs when you begin to climb. Each rung appears under your feet exactly when you need to step. Trying to see the entire ladder before beginning to climb is impossible because the rungs are created by the very act of climbing. Faith is not believing without evidence. It is understanding that evidence arises through movement, not before it. The divine orchestration happens continuously, not just for big desires. Each thought sustained with feeling initiates micro-bridges of incidents. You think about someone with emotional intensity and that person calls. You assume a state of irritation and the universe delivers reasons to validate that irritation. You inhabit genuine gratitude and circumstances that justify more gratitude appear. The law doesn't discriminate between positive and negative, big or small. It simply embodies the dominant state of consciousness. The others in your world are not separate entities with independent existence. They are aspects of your own infinite being appearing as others. When you change inside, they have no choice but to change in response, because they are you at a deeper level of reality. The difficult boss, the loving partner, the demanding client, all are characters in the drama of your consciousness, perfectly playing the roles that your internal state has assigned to them. This orchestration never stops. At every moment, the universe is responding to your current state of consciousness, building bridges, moving people, and opening paths. The question is not whether the law is operating, it is always operating. The question is whether you are conscious of the state that you are occupying and, therefore, of the type of bridge that is being built. But there exists a master key that determines the speed with which you cross these invisible bridges. Living in the present is not an abstract philosophical concept. It is the operational mechanism through which you allow the bridge of incidents to unfold without interference from the limited conscious mind. Meticulous observation reveals a consistent pattern. Manifestations arrive precisely when the person is completely absorbed in another activity. The unexpected check appears during an engaging project. The important call comes while you are immersed in a hobby. The significant encounter happens when you are totally present in a different conversation. This pattern is not a coincidence. It reveals how total presence deactivates the resistance mechanism that blocks the natural flow of manifestation. When you dive into flow states, that state where time disappears and you are completely absorbed in what you are doing, your conscious mind stops interfering with the manifestation process. Deep work, total concentration, creative immersion, all of these states share a fundamental characteristic. They remove you from the way. Your analytical mind, with all of its doubts, fears, and attempts at control, temporarily silences itself. In that silence, infinite intelligence operates without obstacles. The distinction between passive presence and active presence determines the speed of manifestation. Sitting in meditation, waiting for something to happen, is passive presence. Being so involved in your art, your work, and your passion that you completely forget what you were trying to manifest. That is active presence. The second dramatically accelerates the crossing of the bridge because it completely eliminates the resistance generated by anxious observation. Consider how the most significant manifestations of your life arrived. It was rarely while you were sitting obsessively visualizing or mechanically repeating affirmations. It was when you were laughing with friends, when you were solving a complex problem at work, when you were completely lost in a book. Manifestation loves an attention vacuum. It fills the space left when your conscious mind is occupied elsewhere. The present moment is the only point of real power because it is the only place where change happens. The past exists only as memory, neural patterns that you reactivate in the now. The future exists only as projection, imagination happening in the now. When you understand that literally everything happens in the present, you stop wasting mental energy traveling in psychological time. All the energy previously dispersed in past regret or future anxiety concentrates itself in the only moment where you can effectively create. States of deep presence accelerate manifestation because they align you with the universe's time, not with clock time. In the flow state, 5 hours can pass like 5 minutes. In that same period, you can cross enormous sections of the bridge of incidents without realizing it. It's like sleeping during an airplane trip. You board in one place and wake up in another, without conscious experience of the crossing. The subconscious mind, which Neville identified as God in us, operates millions of times faster than the conscious mind. It processes billions of bits of information, coordinates trillions of cells, and keeps all systems functioning perfectly, all simultaneously, without conscious effort. When you are present, you allow this vast intelligence to work on your manifestation with the same efficiency that it uses to beat your heart or heal a cut. Active surrender emerges when you understand this dynamic. You continue acting, creating, working, and living, but without the tension of trying to control the outcome. You plant the seeds through intention, and then tend your garden by doing what you love, trusting that the seeds know how to grow. The obsession with digging up the seeds to check if they are growing only delays the process. There is a reason why all spiritual traditions emphasize presence. It is the natural state of creative consciousness. Anxiety is always about time, fear of the future based on memories of the past. When you are truly present, anxiety cannot exist because there is no psychological time in which it can anchor itself. Without anxiety, there is no resistance. Without resistance, manifestation flows like water down the mountain, following the path of least resistance toward its inevitable destination. Practical experience confirms the more deeply you inhabit the present, the more quickly you cross the bridge of incidents. Not because you are doing something special, but because you have stopped doing the things that blocked the natural flow. It's like stopping pressing the brake while trying to accelerate. The natural movement resumes when you remove the obstacle. But most people create a specific obstacle that consistently sabotages this natural flow. The modern hyperactive mind has transformed itself into the biggest saboteur of instantaneous manifestation, creating labyrinths of complexity where simplicity should exist. Observe the behavior of someone trying to manifest something important. They wake up and immediately begin affirmations. They check for signs at breakfast. They analyze every interaction looking for evidence. They visualize during lunch. They review their scripts at night. They sleep listening to subliminal audios. They wake up in the middle of the night to check if something has changed. This obsessive cycle is not manifestation. It is neurosis disguised as spiritual practice. The chronic overthinker, that person who analyzes every nuance, questions every impulse, and dissects every result, lives in a particular hell of their own creation. She knows all the techniques, has read all the books, and has watched all the videos. Her problem is not lack of information, it is excess of mental processing. The more she tries to control the process, the more the process escapes her control. It's like squeezing water in your hand. The more force you apply, the faster it runs through your fingers. Excessive effort creates a field of resistance that repels exactly what you are trying to attract. When you obsessively pursue a result, you transmit a clear message to the universe: I don't have this. The very intensity of the effort confirms the absence. If you really believed that something is yours, you wouldn't spend 16 hours a day trying to convince yourself of it. Practical experience reveals a cruel paradox. The most resisted manifestations arrive precisely when you finally give up forcing them. You don't give up the desire, you give up the obsessive control over how and when it should appear. How many stories have you heard of people who found love when they stopped looking? Who received the opportunity when they dropped the frantic search? Who healed when they accepted the present condition? Neutrality in setting intentions represents the key that most people ignore. Establish an intention with the same emotional energy that you use to order coffee, without desperation, without pleading, without bargaining with the universe. I choose to experience financial abundance carries power when said with the same naturalness as I'm going to take a shower. Excessive emotional charge doesn't accelerate, it complicates. Action without desperation seems simple in theory, but challenges all cultural programming about achievement. You have been conditioned to believe that intensity equals commitment, that suffering demonstrates deservingness, that struggle validates victory. But observe nature. The seed doesn't struggle to become a tree. The river doesn't strive to reach the ocean. The sun doesn't work hard to rise. The most powerful processes of the universe happen without apparent effort. The law of detachment operates through a fundamental principle. You can only receive what you don't desperately need. This doesn't mean not wanting. It means wanting without compulsive necessity. The difference is energetic. Desiring with lightness allows movement. Needing with desperation creates paralysis. It's the difference between dancing with a partner and clinging to them with fear that they'll flee. The law of least effort doesn't promote laziness. It recognizes that forcing closed doors wastes energy that could flow through open doors. Every moment spent trying to control the how is a moment not invested in allowing the what. You don't need to figure out the path. You need to know the destination and trust that your feet will find the ground with each step. More affirmations don't produce better results. 1,000 empty repetitions are worth less than a single declaration charged with calm conviction. The obsession with quantity reveals lack of confidence in quality. If you really believed in the power of your word, you wouldn't need to repeat it compulsively like a mantra of insecurity. Perfect visualization is not a requirement for effective manifestation. People constantly manifest things that they never visualized in detail. The universe doesn't need an architectural blueprint. It needs a clear intention. Trying to control every visual detail is like trying to describe every molecule of water when asking for a glass of water. The conscious mind knows only an infinitesimal fraction of the variables involved in any situation. It sees perhaps 5 pieces of a 5 million piece puzzle. Insisting that this limited mind must manage the manifestation process is like asking a 3-year-old child to pilot an airplane. The child can hold the stick and believe they are in control, but it's the sophisticated autopilot that keeps the flight steady. Recognizing this limitation brings profound relief. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to see all the steps. You don't need to understand all the mechanisms. Your only responsibility is to establish the intention and then live your life with presence and purpose, trusting that greater forces are working behind the scenes. The control that you seek so much is the very thing that prevents fluid manifestation. When you understand and integrate this truth, something extraordinary happens with your perception of inevitability. Imagine yourself walking across a physical bridge suspended over a valley. There is only one main direction that makes sense: forward. You could technically go back, you could sit in the middle, you could even try to jump to the sides. But the structure of the bridge itself creates an obvious and inevitable path toward the other side. This metaphor perfectly captures the nature of the bridge of incidents once it is formed. When you establish an intention with genuine feeling, the bridge arises instantaneously on the causal plane. From that moment, there exists a direct path connecting where you are to where you have chosen to be. Not 5 diverging paths, not a labyrinth of options. One bridge, one main path, one inevitable destination. But observe what happens with most people, especially when the desire carries intense emotional charge. They begin crossing the bridge with enthusiasm. They take 10 steps, 20 steps, then they look down, they see the height, they feel the wind. The conscious mind begins its sabotage work. This isn't working. 3 days have already passed. Maybe I should try another method. Maybe I don't deserve it. Maybe it's not for me. In this moment of doubt, they stop walking. They sit in the middle of the bridge looking around, waiting for the bridge to carry them. Or worse, they begin to walk backward, returning to the starting point to try a better technique. They don't realize that they were perhaps meters from the other side. The manifestation didn't fail. They stopped crossing the bridge that was already completely built. Inspired action rarely seems related to the desire because the conscious mind cannot see the complete architecture of the bridge. You want financial abundance and feel a sudden impulse to call an old friend. The logical mind dismisses it. What does this have to do with money? You ignore the impulse. 3 months later, you discover that this friend was looking for exactly your skills for a profitable project. The bridge was trying to guide your steps, but you insisted on looking only for paths that made logical sense. The universe works through channels that completely defy linear comprehension. A casual conversation in the elevator leads to a presentation that leads to a partnership that leads to the realization of the desire. A typo in an email results in an unexpected connection that transforms everything. An irritating delay places you in the exact place, at the exact moment, to find the perfect opportunity. The conscious mind could never have planned these routes. They emerge from the infinite intelligence that sees all connections simultaneously. Each step on the bridge seems common, ordinary, and unrelated to the final destination. This is why so many people don't recognize that they are actively crossing their manifestation. They expect fireworks, obvious signs, and mystical experiences. Meanwhile, the bridge guides them through normal Tuesdays, seemingly irrelevant conversations, and everyday decisions that seem insignificant but are actually critical links in the causal chain. 2 years ago, living in the present seemed boring to someone desperate to escape the current reality. The present moment was the enemy, the place where problems existed, where desires weren't fulfilled, where pain resided. All mental energy fled to future fantasies or idealized memories. The present was just something to survive while waiting for something better. Now, this same practice of presence reveals itself as the direct portal to all instantaneous creation. The present is no longer the place from which to escape. It is the only place where magic happens. Each moment completely inhabited is a solid step on the bridge. Each instant of total presence is a movement toward the inevitable. What seemed like a prison has transformed into a portal. The complete synthesis of this understanding revolutionizes your relationship with time and manifestation. You are not waiting for something to happen in the future. You are actively crossing the bridge now. Each breath, each choice, and each moment of consciousness is part of the unfolding. Manifestation is not a future event. It is a present process happening continuously through you. When you truly integrate that the bridge forms instantaneously and that crossing it is inevitable, anxiety dissolves completely. You stop obsessively checking for signs because you understand that every moment is a sign. You stop doubting the process because you see that the process has never stopped. You stop trying to accelerate because you realize that the perfect speed is already established. Manifestation has always been instantaneous. In the moment when you established any genuine intention, consciously or unconsciously, the bridge formed completely. Your only real choice is whether you are going to cross it consciously, trusting in each step, or whether you're going to sit in the middle questioning whether bridges work. The destination is inevitable. Only the crossing time varies based on your willingness to keep walking, even when you cannot see the end. Every change begins with the understanding of your role as a co-creator, and the only way to connect with this divine intelligence is through meditation. We have developed a set of audio tools to help you access this higher state of consciousness. To learn more and get immediate access, click on the link on the screen or in the comments. If this video resonated with you, write in the comments, "It made sense to me."